This is the Operation Self Reset podcast with Jake Naraki. Now it's time to reset your life. Where did I put that button? Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Operation Self Reset. This is podcast number 4, and I want to say thank you guys so much for listening to this stuff. I mean, I'm looking at the world map of all the locations you guys have been downloading this podcast. And I mean, we have people from Australia, China, India, Great Britain, Norway, Sweden, United Kingdom, Spain, listening to this podcast, and that is unbelievable to me. I mean, this is so cool. Hopefully, I'm providing some great value to you guys, and if I am, please go to iTunes and leave a review for me. Also, to go to Operation Self Reset, and if you guys have a question, concern, talk to me. Let's chit-chat. I want to get to know you. You can get to know me, and we will just have a good time on this podcast because this is unbelievable, man. I'm having a blast, and I hope you guys are too. So today we're going to be doing something a little different with the podcast. We're actually going to break this podcast into 2 individual podcasts. You're listening to podcast number 4 right now, and we're going to have a follow-up with podcast number 5, and I will tell you guys the reason in a minute. First, I want to tell you guys about the company that we're going to be talking about today in podcast number 4 and podcast number 5. So this is kind of like a little riddle, all right? So here's the riddle. If you don't catch it, it will run down your arm. What am I talking about? 5 seconds, 4, 3, 2, 1. You got it wrong. Jeez, come on. I thought that was pretty easy. Today we're talking about ice cream. Yes, good old-fashioned, delicious, not so much nutritious, only if you're lacking calcium, because there's a lot of that in ice cream. But I want to talk to you guys specifically about a company called Blue Sky Creamery. They're founded in Iowa, Des Moines, Iowa, and it's a new process of creating super silky smooth ice cream. And how do they do that? They use nitrogen to flash freeze the cream. They kind of have the cream shoot this through the strainer that puts it in really, really super small droplets, and then they use the nitrogen to flash freeze it to create a very smooth, very silky tasting ice cream. And I have tried it, and it's really, really good. So in today's podcast, we're going to kind of break it into 2 parts. The first is the journey on how I met the founders of Blue Sky Creamery, the events leading up to it. It's actually a pretty funny story, so stay tuned. I know you guys aren't going anywhere. At the end of my little story here, I want to share with you guys 7 tips that you can use to put yourself out there, to let yourself meet other individuals that are more successful than yourself, more inspiring, people that are interested and wanting to help you achieve your goals. Even if you're not here to achieve your goals or find your passion or to get a new job or anything like that, but even to interact with other individuals that are possibly in the same hobbies you are, you just have the same interests, or if you just want to get on out and meet other people instead of your normal group of friends that you're usually hanging out around with. So let's get started with the story. So it all began when I was sitting in class at college, and of course I was daydreaming, but my teacher would always go over the daily newspaper, and she would open it up and talk about news articles related to school or related to events going around the city, whatnot. So one day she opens it up and she starts reading, and she finds a little article in the lower corner that states invention and business startup meeting. And she described the location, the time, and everything like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, that would be awesome. At the time, I was 22 years old. And even then, I was into inventions and kind of businesses and how they got started and the history behind them. So I was like, you know what, that'd be actually a pretty cool meetup. I was like, I should probably go to this thing. So I decided to go. And before even going, I was nervous because this was really my first, meeting outside of the norm. Of course, I had to go to classes and, events, deal with school, but there was never a real time when I ventured out on my own to kind of focus on my own personal passion, So I was like, okay, all right, so it's going to be a little weird, but you know what, I'll get through this and it'll be actually really interesting possibly. So I go to this facility where the meeting is held at, and I start walking up to the door, and I realize that it's actually a very older crowd. Nothing wrong with the older generation, but I wasn't expecting that considering my teacher told us about this article in class. So I was kind of just expecting it to be all college kids. But of course, it was in the newspaper, and who reads the newspaper? The older generation. So I walk into this room, and it's a huge ballroom, and it's, in a horseshoe shape, and it's packed to the gills, full of people talking and mingling and stuff like that. So I grab a chair, and I'm kind of like on an aisle just in case I want to dodge out and get out early because this might not be for me. So they start the meeting, and the gentleman in the front of the room is this old kind of like wise man. He had the long beard, and he had like, these glasses, and he just, and he stands there in the front of the room, and he's like, "Well, good evening, everybody. Today we have a lot of inventors in here. Let's hear the inventors." And there's like people clapping. "Yeah, I'm an inventor. Woo!" "Okay, very good. Now let's hear the people with the business ideas." And then everyone's like, "Yeah, I'm the businessman too." I was like, what kind of a meeting is this? This is crazy. All these older people are getting all jacked up about this stuff. So after everybody kind of calms down, the room quiets, the old man starts pointing to the gentleman to his left, and he says, "All right, stand on up and talk about your invention or your business plan, and we'll go around the room." And I'm like, go around the room? So I'm sitting there going, oh my God. So I have to stand up in front of people and talk about my idea? I don't even have an idea. I don't have a business plan. I got nothing. Well, lucky for me, there was like 55 people in front of me. So I was scanning my brain. I'm thinking. And so I'm like, okay, well, what do I really love? And at that time, I really loved gelato ice cream. I don't know if you guys know what gelato ice cream is, but it's Italian ice cream that is really popular in Europe. And the reason why I was really hooked on it, a couple of years prior, I was fortunate enough to go to Europe with my family, and I experienced gelato ice cream, and I fell in love. And of course, I came back to the States here, and especially in the Midwest, there wasn't really any good, just delicious gelato places. So I was like, okay. So as I'm sitting there, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I love gelato ice cream. I want to create a gelato stand here in the Milwaukee area. Perfect. Okay, so the 55 people go up, 56, my number. I pop on up, I stand up, and I start talking about ice cream. I'm talking about like, yeah, who loves ice cream? People are raising their hand. I love ice cream too. I'm talking about like gelato and, why it tastes so good and all this stuff. And I actually had this enthusiasm that was just radiating. I was just really in my element for some other reason. So I sat down, and, the other 5,500 people went, and I was like, okay. And they said, okay. And the old wise man in the front of the room again was like, "Oh, very good, everybody. Very good. We have quite the crowd today. Now we're going to take about a 5-10 minute break." Well, what happens when there's a break? Well, obviously everybody starts mingling. Everybody starts making connections, because that's what it's about. Everybody's there for the meetup, the connection making. If you had a business idea, you hook up with the business people, inventions, with the invention people and things like that. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to go interact with these people? What's the first thing you do when you are in that type of situation and you feel awkward and you don't know anybody else in the room? Yes, you go to the bathroom. That's exactly what I did. I went to the bathroom. I didn't even have to go to the bathroom, but I just figured I had to go move somewhere because I just felt really awkward in this whole setting. And so I go to the bathroom, and of course I didn't have to go, so I stood in there for like 2 minutes. And I remember looking in the mirror, and I said, I have to go talk to one person at this meeting. After I talk to this one person, I'm going to get the heck out of Dodge, and I'll call it a day, and I tried, and whatever. So I walked back out there to kind of like where my area was, and there's this woman that walks up to me, and she goes, "Are you the gentleman that talked about ice cream?" And I said, "Yeah, I am actually. I want to introduce you to this guy." So I meet with this gentleman, and him and I hit it off. We're talking about all different types of ice cream. We're talking about our favorite flavors. We're talking about, should nuts go in ice cream? Should fudge go in ice cream? Or should it just be plain ice cream? All this stuff about ice cream. So he brings up about how he ran into these two founders in Iowa that made this new type of ice cream, aka Blue Sky Creamery, and he told me about it, and he was asking if I would be interested in taking a look at that company and possibly running a franchise if he was to bring it up here in the Milwaukee area. And I was like, yeah, sure, of course, really nice guy. We had a good conversation. We exchanged emails. So the next day I get an email from him asking for my private address and, just about general questions about myself to see if this would be a good fit. Well, sure enough, I give him my address, and the next day I receive a book, next day shipping, about him. And I'm like, who the heck is this guy? So I tell my dad about it, and sure enough, his name is Roy Ryman. He started Ryman Productions, which is credited with building the country's largest private subscription-based publishing company. His magazines were more country-based, but put it this way, he was so big, one of his magazines, he owned numerous types of magazines. One of his magazines was in every 8 households in America. I mean, good Lord, that is a lot of magazines. That's a lot of subscribers. So this guy is really, really huge. So after finding that out, I'm like, oh my gosh, I really got to make sure I don't screw this up, right? This guy is big time. So I was like, maybe this could be my mentor, maybe this could be a long-term kind of thing. So him and I continue to talk, and he's like, all right, how about if I send you down to Iowa and you can check out the company, you can talk to the founders and see if this is a good fit, and we'll kind of go from there. A couple days later, he gives me the lowdown with all the information. He goes, all right, I'm going to provide you with some money for gas, getting down there. But there's one thing that I need you to do. I need you to pick up one of my old publishers and take him down to Iowa with you. And I'm like, wait, there's two of us? So he starts going into the spiel about, if I bring up this franchise, there's going to be two managers and you and possibly this other guy. And it would be, good for you guys to meet up and talk and down there, and you guys could have a friend in the car with you. And I'm like, boy, this could turn out to be a disaster. So I'm like, of course I'm going to say, yeah, I can't wait. I'm super excited. But I'm like, oh my God, what if this guy's like a creeper? What if this guy's like, super weird? And now I have to drive 5.5 hours with this guy. What if he smells? What if he's farting the whole time? Do I leave the window open or do I just ignore it? I was like, all these things going through my brain. So sure enough, I go, to the park and ride, and I meet this guy, and actually he turns out to be really cool. Him and I start talking, and he's telling me about all the friends that he has in the NFL, the National Football League, and he starts talking about how he was in a movie called Major League, and him and I hit it off. He was like 42 years old, and I was 22 at the time, and we just had a blast. We had a good car ride. He did not fart, if you guys were wondering about that, and we just had a good old time, hung out, and enjoyed the ride down there. We made it down to Iowa, and we just had a blast. We had a good time meeting with the founders and just enjoyed Blue Sky Creamery for what it was. But the reason why I wanted to tell you guys that story, not because I want to puff my chest out and say, hey, I have all these connections. Look at me, I'm the cool dude. No, I'm trying to tell you guys about putting yourself out there and getting in front of other individuals. Now, we get so used to being in front of our computer screen, in front of our phone, we kind of lose that interaction with one another, face to face, the good old-fashioned handshakes, the good old-fashioned just meeting up, being in an environment where there's like-minded individuals and just having fun. Now, do you think I would meet Mr. Ryman, the guy who launched the biggest subscription company in the nation, on a chat room or in a forum? And do you think if I did meet him in a forum or in a chat room online, would he allow me or give me the opportunity to drive down to Iowa to see if I would be a proper fit for the new franchise that he wanted to bring here in Milwaukee? Of course not. Seriously, if you think about it, I stood up at that meeting and I proclaimed my love for gelato ice cream. I stood up there and I was so thrilled. I was excited. I was asking the other people in the room, do they like ice cream? And I was just really passionate and I was really myself. I was in my own personal element. And he only heard me talk for maybe 30, 45 seconds. And he knew at that moment that I was the right guy for the job. That is why you and I need to continue or start going to these meetups, putting ourselves out there and meeting other individuals. There's no way I would meet this guy otherwise, right? And the same with you. There's probably been situations in your own life that you have encountered great individuals that there'd be just no way you'd be able to meet them otherwise. I want to share with you guys 7 ways to find a group that you're interested in. It could be for your passion, it could be just for a hobby, or it could be just to get yourself out there and to kind of break out of your shell, to separate yourself from your friends. There's a lot of people out there that actually hate their group of friends, and they want to kind of explore other options, but they don't know where to go. They go online, but there's no real opportunities there. Where can you search to find like-minded individuals like yourself and chit-chat and talk in person with these people? So I want to share 7 tips. So tip number 1, keep your ears open. Hear what other people are talking about, if they're reading about it or they're texting or whatever. You know what? There's so many ideas that come into your life. You just need to be open to them. A lot of times you hear it, but you're just like, I'm not interested in that, or I'm not going to go to that. To give you some other resources that you guys can find meetups in your local area, I'm going to give you a couple of resources that you can go and search online and see if they're good fits for you. The first one is meetup.com. That's a great website. You can go on there, you can look at a calendar, and every day of the week they show your local area. You type in your zip code and it shows you what events are going on, from meditation to building Legos. I don't know. There's everything in between. And the cool thing is all these resources are free. So the second free resource that I want to share with you guys is Eventbrite. eventbrite.com. Kind of the same thing as Meetup, but this is more if you're invited towards something. Now, you can view like events that are going on around you, but you might need an invitation to attend. But that doesn't mean that you can't show one up and walk on in and just ask like, hey, I saw this online. Would it be okay if I, just sit on in, if I just kind of stay in the back or something like that? The next ones are kind of obvious. Yahoo Answers, Facebook, Google Plus, kind of all those social networks, Twitter. Just ask people out there, ask people in your networks. So after we found our first event that we want to go and attend, the second step is getting out of the normal routine and exploring. You need to step out of the box and maybe step into another unknown box. And after you find that group or event, it's time to go. It's time to actually put on your clothes and say, you know what, tonight at 6 p.m., that meetup's going on, I'm going to venture out. Now, obviously, this is easier said than done, right? I mean, because when you come home from work, you might have a bad day. You might have the feelings of, I don't want to do this. I'm not interested anymore, and all that kind of stuff. You need to think back to when you had the motivation to research these meetups. You have to remember the moments that exactly led up to the time that you wanted to pursue this. Close your eyes. Remember that moment. Remember what you were eating or drinking or thinking about. Was it because you wanted to just interact with other people? Was it because you wanted to find your passion? Or was it because this hobby is so near and dear to your heart that you just want to talk to other people about it besides just researching and talking on forums? No matter what it is, you just need to go. Stop making the excuse, stop stalling, and just do it. You know what? The people out there want to interact with you. You have great things to bring to the table. Go and share them. So that leads us into step 3. Have a positive mindset and transform your personality. You got to take a deep breath and look in the mirror and tell yourself you are here to explore and meet new people. So you already got past the hurdle of the excuses and all the BS. So you put on your clothes, you jump in your car, and now you are there at the facility. And a lot of times people get to these events and they decide to leave. They go, it's not for me. They realize the people that are walking in are maybe in suits and you're wearing khakis. And you go, well, I'm not even wearing my suit. I should go back home. No, forget that. Now it's time to get in there and show what you got. No one knows who you are. Chances of you seeing or meeting one of your friends, coworkers, or even your mom at one of these events is like literally 1 in a million. You're better off winning the lottery. But you can literally create a brand new you. I mean, if you are a quiet, reserved individual, become an outgoing individual. You can kind of reset your personality. Isn't that cool? I mean, if you really think about it, we kind of get trapped into our general routine of who we are. If you're the normal guy that talks in a monotone voice and just does his work, and you know what, you're sick and tired of that, but people keep treating you that way, this is your time to break out of your shell. This is your time to just say, you know what, I'm going to be that outgoing, fun individual. I'm going to go in there smiling from ear to ear, and I'm going to bring so much positive energy to this meeting. People are going to fall in love with me, and they're going to want to hang out with me. Step 4 is set goals and know the personality that you want to be. Don't go in there with the double personality. And one minute you're like, hey, I'm Jake. No, so nice to meet you. Man, this is so cool. You're so awesome, man. Did I tell you I love that tie? I love that tie. I want to have one of those ties. And then the next person you meet, you're like, yeah, it's nice. It's nice here. People would be like, dude, is that guy in drugs? They'd be like questioning who you are. If this guy's really weird, or is he outgoing? Is he quiet? Just make sure that you are going in there with a game plan. That you're understanding that, you know what, today I'm going to go in there and I'm going to, make sure I focus on eye contact. Because that's one thing I'm really bad at. I'm going to go in there, shake their hand, and I'm going to, stare at them. Not in a weird way, again, because, you just don't want to stare through their eyeballs into their skull. Like, I'm here to, meet you. I have to continue to stare at you and not blink, because then they'll like walk away and go, dude, that guy's so weird. Don't talk to that guy. You don't want that. You don't want that to happen. So going off of goal setting then, the goals that you need to go into with any type of event, I personally believe in, is that you have to go in there and meet 10 people. Now, why 10? Because usually these meetups are between 15 and 25 people, so there's a good group. Obviously some of them are smaller and maybe the meetup is only 10 people. Well, then you obviously will have the opportunity to meet all of those people. Before I start giving you guys some information about meeting actual people, I want to continue to talk about some things before you go on in and start interacting with others. Bring your phone, but make sure you put it on silent. Don't use your phone as a crutch. Use your phone for contacts and making connections with one another, but don't be using it as, oh, it's kind of awkward and I feel like nobody's talking to me, so I'm going to go on my phone, and actually you're searching like Amazon deals or something. I mean, come on. It's time to grow up. Put that thing away and interact with other people. That's why you're there. You're there to talk, not to text. So let's move on to step 5, which is meeting the 10 cool people at this meetup, right? So you're going to want to approach others, okay? Don't wait for them to approach you. If you feel weird and you really don't know what to say, this is my introduction that I've used over and over, and it works 100% of the time, every time. It basically, you just extend your hand and say, "Hi, I'm Jake, and this is my first time to this meetup. Do we need to sign in, or do we wait for somebody to start this meeting?" If you ask a direct question, no matter if they're preoccupied or if they don't look interested in you, they will answer. That's human nature. When you are asked a question, you respond. So it's a good way to kind of break the ice. And then from there, you can just ask, other questions. Is this your first time here? Is it always at this location? Just think of relevant questions to the situation. These might seem really obvious to you, but there's so many times people come up to me and go, how do you get out there? How do you introduce yourself? And the simple things that honestly you think are really obvious aren't so obvious. So if you have like your signature way to introduce yourself to people, go for it. That's what you're comfortable with. By no means am I saying you need to change up your style or anything like that. But if you feel weird and you walk into a room and you see everybody else mingling with one another, you need to approach somebody, because you will feel silly, you'll feel stupid, and you'll feel just darn awkward. So the key is not to do that. The key is to mingle with somebody, so you're not that guy standing there by yourself twiddling your thumbs. If you see somebody else walking through the door with you, introduce yourself as you're walking in. Obviously, you're both walking to the same place, right? So might as well start the connection there. And then when you walk on in, you look like a natural, you look like a pro. They'll see 2 guys walking in, 2 girls walking in, whatever it may be, and they're already talking. They'll go, "Oh, wow, this guy's been around before," or whatever. It's natural reaction to interact with one another, especially with direct questions. The key is direct questions will solve any awkward situation. So let's get back to the goal setting, okay? So we're going to meet 10 people, right? You're going to introduce yourself. You're going to chit-chat for a while. After you meet those 10 people, you're going to think to yourself, okay, who are the 5 out of that 10 that I want to connect with? Who are those people that I want to possibly grab lunch, grab coffee, talk on the phone, or just email back and forth? Who are those people that really go, that seems like a really cool guy or really cool girl I want to meet with? So you're going to go back to those top 5 people, and you're going to exchange contact information. The key is not to give out yours, because the chances of them contacting you back are slim to none. The key is to get their contact information, their email address and their phone number, and of course their name, because without the name, you're going to be just sending emails to unknown or to whom it may concern. And that's not really going to be feeling friendly now, is it? You actually might come across people that just go, "No, you know what, I'd rather not," and that's okay. That's why you have 5 people that you want to get contact information from. You don't have to get exactly 5. The key is to just narrow it down to people that you would like to possibly grab lunch with, right? So think of these people as, man, this guy is pretty cool. He could be possibly a friend, so we'll see what happens from there. Grab their information and go from there. If you're having trouble reconnecting with those 5 people, say it's getting really crowded and stuff like that, and the guy that you want to talk to or exchange information is already in a conversation, that's when you step on in and say, "Excuse me, can I talk to you for 1 second? I'm so sorry, but I have to get going. I was seeing if I could get your email or phone number. I would like to get in contact with you. I have a couple of questions. I know you're busy now, and we'll talk later." And that guy or girl is going to be like, "Yeah, sure, here it is, blah, 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 blah." So that brings us up to step number 6. Connect with those top 5 people that you have the information from. It might not be 5, it might be 4, 3, 2, or whatever. But the thing is that you need to send an email or a phone message to them the next day. Now, again, this might seem really obvious, but so many times people get this wrong, okay? Especially people that are not in the business world. You need to tell them and provide in the message or the email your name, where you met them, the reason why you're reaching out to them, and make sure that reason is a question. So then they have to respond. The whole idea here is to make sure that they will do their human due diligence and interact with you. If you just say, hey, it was really nice meeting you, man, you're a cool dude, and you sign your name, well, obviously they're not going to respond to you. If you ask a direct question, say you met a baker, a guy that makes phenomenal bread, and you're at a food meeting or something, you're going to ask him, hey, you know what, I'm having issues with bread. What type of yeast do you use? Or what is the exact temperature you set your oven at? Those are direct questions, and they will have to get back to you. So after you ask them the direct question, you need to end the email with some type of action, some type of meetup, okay? If you want to grab lunch or coffee with them, you have to make sure you provide 3 days you are available if you really want to meet up with this guy or girl, okay? So say if it's the beginning of the week, say that meeting was on Monday night, okay? So you're going to provide 2 days later on in that first week. The third day that you're available will be into the following week. Then that gives them the option to look at their schedule and go, okay, well, the first day on Wednesday, he wants to meet up. That's not going to work. And then he wants to meet up again on Friday. Possibly. And then he looks into his calendar next week and goes, whoa, that's way too packed. So then he's gonna be really kind of thinking, when's the best time to meet up with you? And then he might send back to you, you know what? This week doesn't work. How about Saturday morning? Are you available? And then that's when you jump on and go, yeah, of course. So with that whole email thing, I kind of gave you like the best case scenario. Chances of all 5 of your connections that you met getting back to you are going to be slim to none. You're lucky if you have like 1 or even 2, and that's even pushing it, will respond back to you. But that's fine. That's okay. You really just want to meet up with these people and pick their brains, get their connections, and use them to your advantage, right? So if anybody gets back to you, you got to be proactive and make sure you respond back to them. Don't be lazy and prolong this whole situation. That leads us back into our 7th step, the creme de la creme. And the last step is repeat the process. I know, it's so mind-boggling. How did I even think of that? Whoa! Yes, repeat the process. Do it again. The more you do it, the better you'll feel, the more comfortable you'll feel. You'll understand the goals that you have going into the place. Instead of meeting 10 people, maybe you want to search out 10 successful people, 10 people that have built that Harley like you, 10 people that have connections in the industry that you want, 10 people that are interested in the same ideas as you. You're going to refine and you're going to start to read and understand the people that are at these meetups, and you're going to get better at it. You're going to feel more comfortable. You're going to feel prepared. You're going to feel just in your element. And it's a great feeling. I've been to so many meetups. I've been to so many group meetings. And at first, of course, it felt awkward. You feel weird. You're like, oh, I don't even know if I fit here. But you know what? So does everybody else there. Again, chances of you meeting somebody that you know from back in the day are going to be slim to none. Like I stated before, you can either be yourself or be the person that you were meant to be. Be that outgoing guy or be the quiet one or whatever you want to be. This is your opportunity to reset your personality and to be your true self. And just get out there and do it and meet and interact with people and start your connections. Because connections are the ones that will get you that job. The connections are the one that will kind of motivate you and put you in a position to extend yourself and want and crave more in life. And that is what it's all about. It's about resetting the person you are to the person you want to be. So there you go. 7 steps. If you know what, they might seem obvious. They might seem, oh my gosh, this guy, geez, it's so simple. Yeah, it is so simple. But I have the question to you is, do you go out there and do you go to these meetups? Do you go on meetup.com and search? And every single month, you try to go to one meetup? Chances are you don't, because I do. Every single month I go out there and I go to a meetup because it makes myself stronger. I interact with more people and I get to meet some really outstanding individuals. And like I said about this podcast, it's about meeting the people. It's about picking the brains. It doesn't matter if you're super successful, if you're a failure. You have a story to sell. You have so much great information that you have within inside of yourself. Get out there. Do your thing and kill it. So there you go, guys. I mean, that's pretty much the moral of the story. Just get out there and do it. Like Nike says, just do it. So you guys can get all of the links, all of the information that I just spoke about in the 7 tips that we just talked about in this last podcast, number 4, at operationselfreset.com/podcast 004-meetup tips. Again, operationselfreset.com/podcast 004-meetup tips. So again, thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen. If you have some feedback for me, throw it online for me. Also, too, check me out on Twitter, OP Self Reset, and then also check out the YouTube channel. Got some amazing videos coming out very shortly. So thank you guys, take care, and we'll see you in episode number 5, which is the second part to this podcast miniseries. And just remind you guys, in part 2 of this miniseries, we're going to be interviewing Will Schroeder. He is the founder of Blue Sky Creamery, has some very valuable information, some tips, motivation, and inspiration that we can use daily in our lives. So until then, reset yourself, reset your life, and change the person you are to that person that you want to be. We'll see you soon.